Hello there, folks, and welcome to the stream. My name is Mike D'Angelo, aka That Tellest Guy, and we are going to take maybe a 10-second look or so at our coastal grave map that we started working on last week. I guess first I should mention I am showing up the third day of this week and not the first two because I was feeling sick on Monday and we just didn't have enough time yesterday with election day and everything to do everything that we needed to do. So that's why I'm here now and did not show up those other 2 days. So real quick, we are actually looking at a variant of the coastal grave map. I figured we did a lot of work on the base layer and I wanted to just real quick take a look at what we had here. So we have our basic stuff still in place, our points of interest. We have our little nest, our mermaid grave, our boat with the shovels and oars and everything like that, our hammock, and then if you wanted to count it, our little crab hiding out in his little cave over here. I moved this to a high tide variant of the map, so you can see the waves were back here, and we moved them forward a little bit, moved the wet sand a little bit further back, hid the footprints a decent amount. You can kind of still see them, but not as much as you might have expected, and yeah, so all that good stuff. And we've got two other variants for this map. One of them is a nighttime version, and then the other one is a stormy weather kind of version. So that's where we ended up with that one. Let's fit this to the screen and celebrate with a All right, so we are actually going to celebrate in a fun little way. We'll take two more trips, I suppose. Let's first start with the Fisherman's Hut. This is actually our very first guest map on the Tellest channel, and it's one that we commissioned from Maiden. So she's got her information up on the Inkarnate Discord, and we've known for a while that we wanted to kind of bolster our numbers and let other people kind of join our world. You know, the Tellest motto is "the world is in your hands," and we wanted to offer up that world to some other people. So Lore Maiden is the first person who we've been working with who's gotten us to that point where we are extending beyond what we already have. So she did this really cool little beachfront map. I thought it was kind of funny that we were working on a coastal map as well. So her map has this kind of look of a fisherman's hut, and you've got a couple of other little piers and stuff. So it's clear that this isn't just one fisherman, but maybe like a small fisherman's village or something like that. Just a very nice way of blending things. I did a couple of variants of this as well, just to make sure that we had, everything looking, we wanted to keep it in line with the way that we do things. So she did a couple of things here and there that just look really great. Like everything pops very nicely, and we're excited to have this on the Patreon and on DriveThruRPG soon as well. I think by next week, probably we're looking at Friday, we will have this map, and we also have one other collaborator that we're working with. Probably look to have both of those maps up on Friday, because that is the day that we are going to begin the Philadelphia Fan Expo experience. So I figured we'd go in with a bang and see where things take us. But this is our first map, and I will be working with our second user a little bit later today to get her maps over on our Inkarnate. I'm not going to do a map completed for somebody else's maps. That feels a little bit disingenuous, but we will look at the other map that I made, which is, we have two sets of variant floors for the west wing of the Forgotten Keep, and for a while now I've been thinking I was going to do something for the east wing as well. We have the first floor and the basement level, and when I was doing my campaign, we never had a third floor. I really like the idea of adding a third floor kind of on the just as an added bonus. So what we did was, after hours the other day, we made a secret ladder on the first floor that leads up to this floor. And a variant of this variant, we have like bits and pieces of clockwork pieces in here that is supposed to be representative of like a clockwork spider or something like that that can attack people. This is supposed to be a really kind of chill floor with like a big boss battle and little tiny things along the way. As you move into this room, you can see there's a statue with kind of like a table next to it with some wine and stuff like that. We figured the person who's doing whatever ritual in here is he's got a little assistant who goes and fetches him wine and stuff like that, and then also comes up here and dumps any refuse and trash. You can see that in this main room there's been a decent amount of damage while these experiments are going on and things like that. This is kind of like a trapped monster room. When adventurers go in here, the book tries to suck them in and add them to its pages, and summons creatures out of these books and everything. Just a fun little experience. And then if the adventurers want, they can try and wait for this guy to go by up here, dump his refuse, and then try and see if there's somewhere else to hide. And if they do, he can come through in here, maybe pray. Maybe if they're listening in, they can hear a couple of extra details, those kind of things. And then we figured a little bit of information here that you can get as well from the scrolls, the scattered books and pages and stuff like that, and then they could move on. And finally, the last room in this floor is the way that I have it envisioned is there's a genie type figure. We call them Aetherites in the Tellest universe, who's trapped in this orb. They've got him locked in with this chain, and there's some kind of way that the wizard or arcanist or whatever is fueling this device and this one over here, and they're trying basically to see if they can take the Aetherites' power for themselves. And thus far, they have not been able to make that happen. Maybe it's one of those situations where he never gets the chance because of the adventurers, or maybe they step in just in time to notice this guy going full on mad and succeeding in getting the Aetherites' powers. Whether or not that means that the Aetherite has no powers left, or if he can still be rescued, it's up to the game master. But figured that was a fun little addition to this, and because of that, we'll end up doing another bundle for this set on DriveThruRPG so that you can get your Forgotten Keep East Wing maps a little bit cheaper. So let's do this. We're going to go in here real quick. I am going to go on intermission so that I can pick up those maps from the other person, and maybe we'll even take a look at them while we're there. So give me 1 second. Alrighty. So we are going to take a look at our other collaborators' maps. So we worked with Becka Tigress on a map that she did, a dungeon she did, I should say, called the Necromancy Dungeon, and she just did a very cool thing with it. She ended up making it kind of feel like one of those old Mighty Max toys where the theme of the dungeon and the shape of the dungeon kind of match up in some pretty cool ways. So we've got our first floor here with some outdoor elements and things like that, and then you can see there's stairs that end up going up, and let's get rid of those. Go into our second floor. So you can see this is where the stairs go up from. There's one more floor that you can go up to, but you can see some of the other cool elements that you have here throughout the place. And then if we take one more step up, we can go to the third floor. And here we go. This is our last one. Just gave us a lot of cool stuff for what we worked with her on. Again, this was Becka Tigress. So we had Becca's work here, and then earlier we saw the bit from Lord Maiden, and we're trying to work with at least one more artist. It might not be someone who's working on Inkarnate stuff for that one, but we definitely want to try and add more value when we do our second set of maps of Tellest later this year. All right, moving forward. So we just looked at 4, technically 6 maps, but we're going to make our way to our next one. So we've got, this is a map that is set in the Goldenscale Cliffs, which is a region of the Tellest universe that is from Son of the Storm, one of the books from Tales of Tellest that probably at this point released, I want to say like 13 years ago, around that time, 12 years ago maybe. And the whole point of this map is it's the top of these cliffs that a bunch of dwarves, a dwarven clan, lives in. They're predominantly underground and everything like that. They've got like a warren, and then they mine out the cliffs and everything like that. But at the very top of their area here, they have a giant statue that's like 40 feet tall of one of their dwarven heroes, King Valen, who stands here kind of acting as like a lightning rod, because the area that they're in, again, it's very high up in the mountains, so if there are storms, the hammer kind of catches a lot of that lightning. You'll notice a couple of things here. The statue and the pedestal are not Inkarnate. They're not like native stamps. They're stamps that we have as part of our Tellest Foundry set. We are going to continue to expand on those, but we are first spending a lot of our time and attention on Fan Expo next week. So we're not throwing our money at this stuff just yet, but it will be something that we do. You can see the way that we have it set up right now. We have the bridge crossing the ravine, the statue, a little spot where it's not quite as gray and dismal, where there's going to be some wildflowers, because our hero from like this section of the story is an older dwarf, older-ish, named Dorn, who he's not quite like the other dwarves or anything like that. He doesn't quite like living underground or anything like that. They make fun of him for being kind of, above ground, and liking flowers and stuff like that. So he ends up doing stuff throughout his time living here in the Goldenscale Cliffs that end up kind of earning him some respect, and they don't give him as hard a time for things like that. So what we have to do going forward for this map is we have to build out more cliffs going down, because we should see some extra layers of these cliffs. It's kind of like layers upon layers upon layers of these cliffs, where you can see other like entrances into the mountains, the cliffs that the dwarves live at, and then on top of that we have to put the wildflowers in, and we have to figure out whatever our 4th point of interest is, because typically we try and do our sets of 4. So let's get started, or resume in my case. I think we're probably not going to have too much going on up here, but at least along these kind of edges we're going to see those other cliffs kind of as we make our way down, and then way far down below. Whether or not we use anything at all that far down, I don't know quite yet, but we'll determine that as we go, I guess. All right, so the first thing that we have to do is dial back the size a little bit. So we're going to move a layer down as well, and let's start to kind of throw these things down. Oh, we want random stamps. And you'll notice I'm not doing the line tool, just because I'm not a huge fan of the way these types of cliffs work with the line tool. I think it looks a little nicer doing things the old way. And I've been doing that a lot these past couple of maps. The Halion Roost, again, I use these kind of cliffs. And along the coastline for the Coastal Grave, we didn't end up using anything there, because it didn't quite match the tone that we had set with the previous map in that zone. and it didn't feel right to kind of jump from one to the other. So let's do that, and do another little set over here. And we'll do the same thing on the other side without shifting the size or anything just quite yet. So we've got that, and over here. You know what I'm noticing though? That's living above what we have. So let's see if I can't move that layer up. There we go. Yeah, last week everything was hunky-dory, and then this week, in the beginning of the week, Nerdy Kev can vouch for me, my voice was starting to go in the middle of the day, and Rihanna and I just were not feeling really quite up to talking Tellest on Monday, and then by the time Tuesday rolled around, still having a little bit of problems with my voice, but really it was just we ran out of time because Rihanna doesn't get home till late, and it was election day, and we had to go out and vote, and we had to get stuff for Fan Expo, and just the timing wasn't right. So we'll probably try and do something tomorrow and Friday instead, but we have a D&D session on Saturday, so I don't really know whether or not I'm going to be able to commit to anything. We're going to try. No promises. All right, and one more layer down, so we'll go down to -1, and we've already changed it to 40, so let's dial it back down to 30. And keep on expanding outward with this. Trying to have a little bit of kind of overlap where things should end up living, but I don't want to commit to making things mirror one another or kind of extend the same way, so we'll just take things as we see them. We might even do another bridge under there once we get enough distance down below. But we'll have to, again, kind of take that as we see it. Ooh. Polluted. Now the tricky part is, at some point we're going to need to have something that looks like caves, because these dwarves live in parts of this area of the cliffs, and we want to make sure that they look like they have somewhere to go instead of just hang out on these cliffs down here. And let's curl that in a little bit more. We'll have it on the other side where it looks like it can extend further down, but here we won't do that. Okay, keeping it going down, so we need this to be -20. And one more layer down. And this one will start kind of like that. I lost it. I want this one to be kind of on the narrow side. I don't want it to start quite as broad as these ones were. Okay. Keep this one out a smidge. And one of the things is, as we descend down, we're going to have to change the size. We did something similar to this with our damaged bridge over Foggy Cliffs. So at least there's some semblance of familiarity here with what we're building. Now this one will go a little bit further out with things. tough to see that, isn't it? Let's do this in the meantime. No? You don't see the bridge? Change that opacity so I can scooch that up. And I don't want this to do the same thing that that one did there, so we'll terminate this one right up here. And we'll do a little something different over here. We'll start it way up here. Start another little hunk over here. So one of the things that you can do, which we used in the Siphenadil Citadel entrance map, is you can actually use the blur filter on the bottom layer. So we can actually test that real quick just to see what it looks like. So if we use the, where is it? The blur filter. Right now it's on the top layer, so everything looks blurry. But as we come down, various stamps will start to come through. The text will start to come through. We don't really need those. But you'll notice the background stays blurry as well. So if we really needed to, and we didn't want to do like a separate map or anything like that, as we kind of cut back on that and put things like trees and things in the background, we can use the blur filter to hide some of those details and make it look like, okay, these cliffs are up pretty high. And obviously, as you can see here, we dialed back the blur filter size somewhat, so we could do something as simple as like a 0.5. And you can barely notice it there. Let's bump it up to 1.5. 1.5. It's still pretty far down, but you can notice that there are, things that have changed there. So it's a good little set that we can do there. Let us, instead of continuing on over here, we'll get to our last set of cliffs. Let's go here at -10. I'm sorry, just 10. And -3. You know what? Rather than go to 10, let's go to 15. Give us a little bit more details. Actually, let's do, instead of even starting over there, let's start here. Just a little cliff down here. Let's have that overlap a little nicer. Okay, there's that, and let's do another little pocket over here. Now, here is one problem with the blur filter that you'll notice. We've got the blur, and the intent is that we have just that way down there represented. But it's affecting everything up here as well. So that is part of the problem. And I think even if you did foreground, so if we have the foreground there, you'll see if I mess with the filters, it affects the foreground as well as the background. So it ends up causing problems either way. So the blur might not be something that we end up doing. We'll have to figure something else out in the meantime. Finish this little guy over here real quick. Okay, so we got those 2 little ones there, and let's do 1 more over here. A little pocket cliff that comes out. Did I end up getting rid of it? Yeah, I did. So what we might end up doing is throwing a stamp over some of this area down here. It's going to be tricky, and it might end up being a situation where we have to do a foreground and a background, but we're going to play with things first and see if there's any kind of genius moments that come out from necessity. All right, so we've got that. Let's go back to our bridge. And throw the opacity back on. And before we go nuts and do any more bridges, let's do this instead. So we know that we have, I think it's this set here, which is size 70. Yeah, you can see we've got size 70 there. So what we're going to do is dial this down by 10. Start to work our way through the next set of cliffs down. You know what? We're not going to go full opaque either. Let's do 65. Because the idea that I kind of have with this area is it's not exactly a temperate area. In fact, one of our variants is very likely going to be some snow. And what we would do is the higher the area, the more arid it is as well. They might get some snow every now and then it'll melt, but it won't really. It'll kind of go down off the cliffs, so they don't really get a lot of opportunity to see a lot of greenery. But over on the other side, we've got Dorn, who's kind of cultivating those wildflowers very specifically, so those ones will grow the way that we want them to, the way that he wants them to. So Dorn is, on top of being kind of like the above ground dwarf that he is, he's also known as kind of like the caretaker of the statue. So when he ends up going, and noticing damage on the statue, he would go up there with like a grappling hook and, kind of take care of any damage, report it up to his folks that might be able to do something as far as getting together materials that they might need. Work with some of the nearby towns to make sure that those kind of things are taken care of. All right, I think got that layer, and let's do this. So that is our 20 and that's our 30, so this one's correct. So I'll do a little bit more of this one. Who dares to text me? Keeping our way down here. And let's see, is this one a 30 as well? Yes. Throw that one there, and I think that one's a 30 as well. Verify real quick. Yep. Just using the outlines of these cliffs. Trying not to go over top of the next one too much. Let's go around that one just a little bit more. And that should do it there. And let's go back we'll go down to 50. We won't go down to 45 just yet, and then we'll change the size to, let's do 40, and then for our last one we'll do 35. So we got our 30 here and our 20 here, and then even further down we've got our 15. It's just this little area here. Alrighty. And what we'll do is, on top of what we're doing already, when we go and do our lower cliffs, we'll also use a little bit of like grass patch. Make it look like here and there there's some sprouting up happening. That's 20 and this is our 15, so let's keep it going over here. And then way far down below we'll have nothing but grass. And then, you know, maybe some stuff here and there. 45 is nice, and 35. Oop. Keep on forgetting that one goes so insignificantly that you don't really see a lot. Okay, I think it's just that one. No, I guess this one here as well. And the right side is the one that only has the one little patch. Okay, so we've got that, and then let's go into this kind of patchy look over here. So we're going to make sure that we stick to around 40. And we'll make this one a little more like 75%. Oops, 75 is way too much. Let's do 50 and see how 50 looks. Still a little too much. Let's do 4. There you go. 0.4 will work for me as far as I'm concerned. A little bit of greenery, but not a lot. This little guy over here. And let's do this. We're going to bring it up to 50 and bring it to 0.35 as we continue making our way up. Going to have kind of little splotches of it as we can see more. Yeah, I had some over here already, but I feel like I did it wrong because that should be one more step up. So that one's going to have a little bit more greenery as well. And let's go to 3, and we'll go to 60. Touch over here, and let's bring it up to 70 for our final, and like 0.25 for our next highest cliffs. Not too much here on this top layer, but still we want you to be able to see a little bit of greenery come through. Not necessarily up here. And we're still going to add our cracks and things like that, make it look like these cliffs are not the safest place to put anything down. I think there's a little bit of greenery here already, but we're going to put maybe a little bit more. Because again, this is where Dorn is working his hardest to kind of till the soil and make things look nice. And we're going to lose a lot of that greenery anyway because we're going to have the wildflowers and stuff like that. That's too much. Let's bring that to 15. All right, and let's go to the whole shebang, but we're going to bring this down to 10 because this is all the way down there. So bringing this shape tool down enough where I can kind of get into these little crevices. And we'll just paint along the sides. And we're going to have to hide that bridge again, so that I can keep on working alongside here. Again, we've kind of done this before because we did the same thing with the damaged bridge over the foggy cliffs. I have a difficult time coloring in the lines, so we're taking our time with this one. The nice thing about having the 100% is I don't have to worry about having things too zoomed out or anything like that. This will be a cinch. And we're not using any clipping masks with these cliffs because I don't think they have that option. So it ends up preventing us from doing anything hugely bothersome. You know, we can kind of go a little bit further without having to worry about having to touch anything up later. We gotta lose our statue as well because that hammer is certainly in my way. Okay. So just to the west of here is like the entrance to the clan hall, basically. So I think if we were going to do, you know, the sequels to this zone, the next ones that we would do would be obviously to the west and east of here, because the west is the clan hall, and then the east is actually where Dorn, our hero that we talked about a couple of times already today, that's where he has his above ground home. Once he made a name for himself enough, they ended up letting him have a home. It's kind of like a little cottage. Still the caretaker of a couple of things and still works very hard, but they've allowed him some allowances. As one does with allowances, you allow them. Zoom it out a little bit. Looks nicer over on that side. Now we gotta do this side too. Take this right to about 8 o'clock tonight. Once we have this in place, maybe we play with another bridge or two. I think we won't mess with any like the caves that I was talking about until afterwards, off stream, or depending on what kind of time I have. Maybe we do that on Friday. But I definitely need to prepare for a D&D session for this Saturday. It's been a long time coming. It's our penultimate meeting before our entire group has a nice reunion. Looking forward to getting everybody back at the table. It'll be interesting to see if Luna, who hasn't had a D&D session at this house, if she allows for it, or if she gets super jealous of none of the attention being on her. Okay. zoom out, or well, expand the size of our brush, I should say. Doggies barking outside, making our doggies bark inside. I heard Luna got chastised. Alrighty. And once we get over to here, let's go a little nicer. Continue to make our way down. Actually, let's do this real quick. Now, obviously, we're not just going to have this be straight up flat ground down here. We'll make lots of trees and stuff like that. Maybe a river that goes through the area. I can't even tell what dog is barking down there. Our neighborhood is very dog friendly. I feel like the dog that's barking is the dog that never barks. Okay, almost there. So we had mentioned earlier that we've got that dwarven statue that's definitely new. You know, Inkarnate doesn't have that set or anything like that. I think one of the first stamp sets that we're going to offer as the Tellest Foundry is going to be a statue set. Because they do have a decent amount here in the basic, you know, native Inkarnate platform, but especially the Tellest universe, we have a decent amount of different kinds of races that we want to be able to show off. And if you don't have a lizard folk statue, then you can't use a lizard folk statue. So things like that. Okay, that gets our way down there in the bottom section done. Let's move our opacity layers back up for things like the statue and the rope bridge. And you know what? We're at 275. Let's do a real quick save before we try and figure out where those other bridges are. And we'll be here for another 5 minutes or so before we close up the show. And tomorrow, if we're lucky, we'll do a Talking Tellest, and then on Friday we'll loop back around if we have the time and do another one of these. So let's go down to, we've got that one, which is 10 down. That one's 10 down. Let's do, we've got a 30 there and a 30 here. So let's do a bridge that goes from there to there. So let's go to our lines, and we had a 30 stroke size before, so let's go down to a 30. We're going to use the pen, and maybe we'll do something like that one there. And down here we've got 15. I feel like that's a little too far. And we've got 20s. We've got a 30 there. That's a 20. That's a 30. Got a 20 and a 20 maybe. Tell you what, we already know that this bridge is crossing a ravine, so we don't need that anymore. Let's do this. Drop it down to 20 now. And we'll do from here to here. Oh, but this is an important part. It needs to be below the bridge above it. And even though this isn't going anywhere, we're going to make that one further down as well. All right, so we got a couple of bridges. So we're definitely going to need some caves and stuff like that down here. But again, we'll work on that probably off stream. Let's see. So a good start. We definitely have a lot of work cut out for us. We've got to do the cracked ground. We've got to do a lot of flocking. We've got to do the trees down here on the bottom layer. You know, we have to make things a lot more vibrant, a lot more dynamic. And then we got to figure out whatever our fourth point of interest is for this map, because we've got our statue, our bridges, and our wildflower patch that we're going to be working on. But we've got some unused real estate down here on the bottoms of these, so maybe we'll figure out something that we can do on both sides there. But let's go to our save, and let's go to our show closing screen. So on the screen right now, folks, you should see all the places that you can find Tellest out there in the world. Tellest.com, great first place to stop at. You'll see all the projects that we're working on, any really big news that drops. That'll be a good first place to go to. But we also have a couple of premium sites that you can go to, including patreon.com/Tellest, where you can find digital versions of our premium goods, including these battle maps. Usually we're working on battle map stuff, tabletop stuff, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we usually do some kind of like little art piece that we commission through one of our partners. And we have that, I think, at least for now, scheduled out for another 2 months or so. Hopefully we get a little bit of play money at Fan Expo next week, and we get to keep that going for a lot longer. The other premium site that you can go to is tellest.etsy.com, where you can find physical versions of our premium goods. Those include jumbo mouse pads for our maps that are like 18 by 36 inches. We've got our posters. Want a swig of chalky? Just chocolate syrup? Yes, let's go for it. Also on Etsy, we've got our posters, bookmarks, stickers, the Quantum Quest tabletop game, and of course Rihanna's one-of-a-kind handcrafted magic wands, which you can see more of on her TikTok channel, tiktok.com/@weirdwitchwands. She usually puts together like a little promo video of each of her wands when they're ready. We've got, I think, another like 20 wands that she's working on right now ahead of the convention next week, and we're going to be bringing something like 130 there. So you've got a week to buy a wand before they probably all go missing at the Fan Expo. So make sure you move on that quick. You could hear the doggies barking earlier today. If you want to see them acting fools, you can go to tiktok.com/@TalesOfTellest to see more of their shenanigans. And the last two places that I'll bring your attention to are the places that you can find more videos like these. youtube.com/@WorldOfTellest is where you can go to find Talking Tellest videos and these map making videos after Twitch purges us from the system every 21 days or whatever it is. But if you want to chat with us live and ask us questions like, do you want a swig of chalky? You got to go to twitch.tv/thattellestguy. And then you can let me know whether or not there's no elevator music during the intermissions and stuff like that. But for now, we're close to that 8 o'clock mark, and my voice is starting to go again. So we are going to call it quits. But thank you for joining, and I miss you.